Cast button. It says this hangout on there is live. I'm live. All right, let me hurry up and knock this off. I'm still trying to increase my competency in F sharp. So let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. Full screen, yeah. Present to everyone. All right, so what is live events? So this what earlier today I posted a couple blog posts. My Scott Nimrod's blog. This is my technical journal on me keeping records of things that could be deemed useful so that I don't have to memorize everything and keep it in my head. So this is, me recording my experiences as I continue on my journey to be the best developer in the state of Florida, which I think it's something to strive for. I'm not the best developer in the state of Florida, but I'm curious. I'm curious who is. Anyway, so this is my technical blog. And earlier today, I did this F sharp bank account kata volume 1. All right. And basically, it's just a kata for the standard operations of a bank account, right? You withdraw money, you deposit money, and you might want to transfer some funds between your accounts. For example, transferring between your checking and your savings. And so in this, the version 1, this volume 1 of this bank account kata in F sharp, let me just take you to the code. Come here. Yeah. Control Alt L is, yeah, that brings it to your Solution Explorer. So the first approach, or the initial approach, is just writing functions first before defining my types as I think about what it means to interact with your personal bank account. You want to withdraw money, you want to deposit money. Look at this. And you want to transfer funds, right? Which is, I think, a combination of the first two. And so the first thing I did was if I scroll down a little bit, in volume 1 of this code kata, I said, well, I'm going to have 3 main operations that I'm aware of: handle withdrawal, handle deposit, handle transfer. And initially, these functions are going to receive a request, right, in the form of a command. And these commands are down here: withdraw, deposit, transfer, right? And so this is really, these functions are really going to be participants with kind of in a facade-like pattern where you basically can, look at this over here. You can basically take any of these functions that I've defined, right? Any of these handlers, and you could pass it any command. These handlers will basically do pattern matching to see if they can actually process that command. And if they can, then they'll go ahead and return some. And the result of that command, else they'll just say none, right? Some, the result of that command, right? Else they'll just do none, right, down here. And so the first version of this implementation was really happy path, my happy path implementation, meaning that I thought about the usual scenarios in which I assume that you can actually do with a withdrawal that won't result in a negative balance, right? You can actually do a transfer that in which you have funds available to do a transfer, and that you can actually deposit money in which it's not a negative or zero value amount that you would like to make a deposit to. And so again, that's the happy path implementation. Notice how I didn't have any unit tests in here at all. And there's a reason for that, because I'm experimenting with uh, an idea that Mark Seaman had shared with me, in which he said that he's at the point now where he writes very little unit tests in a form that we're aware of, in which one may express a test scenario that conveys intent. Instead, he says that he'll just write out his various functions to satisfy various objectives of a domain, and that instead of the typical unit test that he writes property-based tests instead. And he told me that's pretty much his practice now. And so, again, I really respect him, and I really want to learn from him. So I'm going to mimic him and see what I could take away from it. And so, with that said, I didn't write any unit tests. I take advantage of the REPL, right? And so, if I go ahead and register all my functions, Control Alt C clears out my REPL window, and then I can I can execute each of these individually, handle the deposit in which I'm depositing into my checking account, which has a balance of 100. I'm going to deposit 10 more, right? And we see that here's our result. Our deposit function, or our deposit result, is going to have sum, right? In which it's going to say before deposit we had 100. We're going to deposit 10. After the deposit we have 110, right? Now, what if we wanted to deposit negative 10? What would that look like? Well, in this version of the implementation, you can do whatever you want, right? Hence, when I mentioned that this implementation is really the happy path implementation. So, yeah, that's probably not what we want, right? Um, Same thing with the withdrawal. We want to withdraw from our savings account, which has a balance of 100. We want to withdraw $10 or a value of 10 from it, right? And so when I execute that, the result is sum. Before withdrawal, we had 100. We want to withdraw a value of 10. After withdrawal, we have our savings is now 90, right? So, what if we had 0? If we do that, we're still able to make a withdrawal, in which case, or after withdrawal, which is over here, our savings account now has a negative amount of negative 10. And if we want to do a transfer operation, we can do that, in which we transfer from our checking account, which has a balance of 100. We transfer some funds into our savings account, which has a balance of 150, and the amount we want to transfer is 10. And so when we execute that, we have sum transferred from balance before we had 100 to balance before we had 150, right, between checking account, savings account. And then from balance after, because we transferred 10, we now have 90 in our checking account, and to balance after, which is to our savings account, we have it's now 160, right? And then this is the 10 that we did the transfer of between the two accounts. So that's initially it. Now, what happens if you say we have 0, right? And we want to transfer from an account that doesn't have any money to an account that, in this case, does have money, some positive value, in which is still 10. If we go ahead and do that, well, we can, so far, we can still transfer money, it says, in which it says transferred. And now our we have in our checking -10, right? It's somehow we were able to transfer money that we don't have into another account, and which is now 160, where before our savings account was 150. So to make a long story short, as I said earlier, all this is like happy path scenarios. And I mean, I think you got to start somewhere, right? Now, as a human being, I'm intelligent enough to identify that there would be some edge cases, right? In which, without having to do any property-based tests, I know for a fact that more than likely we need to have money in our account if we want to perform any operations with it, um, unless it's a deposit. But if we're going to deposit something, then we need to deposit a positive amount. And so, like, those are the edge cases that I consider, right? And this implementation doesn't really support that, you know? This implementation doesn't support that. So, I realized that, you know, and let me move that up. Alt up arrow will move a file up within the Solution Explorer. So here's my later implementation, okay? And again, I cover this in my blog, my technical journal, and this I recently published this about maybe 15, 20 minutes ago. This F# bank account Kata volume 2, okay? And in here, it shows the difference or the updates that I've made from the original implementation. I'm actually going to add these videos to these 2 blog posts as well. Let me go back. So what did we change? What did we change? Well, we changed a couple types in here, but I really want to put focus on where earlier we had, let me get rid of this. I don't need this. Get rid of this. All right, so earlier within our type called response, we just had the options that we had, right, or the choices that we had for a response were a withdrawal, or withdrawal, deposited, or transferred, right? So our initial implementation just again assumed happy path, but we're trying to like nail down what it means to use a bank account, and we need to address the fact that we're interacting with the outside world, in which the outside world can pass us any data, and we need to vet that data, and there's certain rules that this bank account needs to comply with if we're going to, be a successful business and not have any issues dealing with customer service, because that costs money and it's resources, right? And so again, in this initial implementation, we had these initial choices for a response based on some type of attempted transaction. Now, if we go back, I should have closed my window. We update these responses, right? So in the second version of this implementation, not only do we have a withdrawal, which we had earlier, but we have a withdrawal failed, Not only do we have a deposited, which we had earlier, we have a deposit failed. Not only do we have a transferred, which we had earlier, but we have a transfer failed, right? And this is important, right? Because now we're we're sending feedback to the client about the state of their attempted transaction. All right. So in addition to that, did I do anything else? What did I do? What's the state and transfer summary? Um, I changed the name of the transaction to state, right? Because I thought it was more fitting. Before deposit, after deposit, before withdrawal, after withdrawal, right? And that stuff is being used. If I do Control F12, was it Control or Shift F12? That will show the references in which how it's being used, and we see like within this handle withdrawal operation, and also we see the before withdrawal, after withdrawal, right? And this handle deposit operation, we see before deposit, after deposit. So we want to, create we want to provide some type of detail about the transaction back to the client. This is the feedback that we're giving to them. And so that's how I update these operations. Now, am I proud of the implementation for these operations? Nah, because I mean, it looks like it doesn't look clear, when I'm looking at these functions. It doesn't look it doesn't look like it could be, it doesn't look simple. I have these conditions in here. I mean, it's short, right? Like it's only how long is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, it's 7 lines of code, right? I just feel like it can be simplified, but it looks like it works right now. So maybe I'll have a F sharp bank account Kata volume 3, maybe, in which I attempt to simplify this even more. But same thing with this over here. I mean, it's really small, the method. It's just, maybe, I don't know. The first thing I'll think about is railway oriented programming, which might be overkill. I don't know. All right. Let me get back to what I was talking about earlier. And so I talked about how I made some updates to the types that I had from my initial implementation. Yo. And now, if I demo a deposit in which we have our checking account, a balance of 100, we want to deposit 10. Let me first register all this in my REPL. Come here. Come here, come here, come here, come here. Yeah. All right. And so we do this right here. Yeah. So we go ahead and we execute this deposit, this handle deposit of $10 into our checking account that has about a balance already of 100, and we see the result is sum deposited. Before the deposit, we had checking, 100. We're going to deposit 10. After deposit, we have checking 110. That looks right to me, right? Now, so here's the test: is using a REPL. What if we want to deposit -10 on, right? And then we go ahead and we execute that. Come here, and we see over here that our deposit value now has a response of sum deposit failed. And it says checking where we had a balance of 100 -10, right? So that basically reflects what we attempted to do. But our initial implementation in our F sharp code Kata volume 1, it didn't have this support, but now it does, right? Now, all right, let's move on. Let's clear this a little bit, right? Come here. I keep spelling withdrawal wrong, right? Come here. So this withdrawal. I think it's supposed to be like that. Come here, come here. All right, so our handle withdrawal we can go ahead. There's savings account where we have a balance of 10. We want to withdraw 10, which should result in a savings of 0, right? So if we want to go ahead and execute this, we have our response, in which it's sum, withdrawal. Before the withdrawal, we had savings. We had a balance of 10. We wanted to take out 10. After withdrawal, we have savings and it's 0. All right. But you know what? What happens if we don't have anything in our savings account, but we still want to withdraw 10, right? Come here. We go ahead and do that. Come here. Alt enter. We'll go ahead and execute it. It'll spit it out to our REPL window. Now we have our response, in which is the option of sum. The withdrawal failed. And then it says savings. We had a balance of 0. We attempted to withdraw 10, right? So again, withdrawal failed. Repeat, we didn't have this in our initial happy path implementation of F# bank account Kata volume 1. No, we didn't have that, but we have it right now. So it's caught. All right, next, let me Control Alt C. That clears my REPL window. Let's go back over here. I'm trying to get in the flow. This handle transfer right here, right? It's checking. Our checking account has 100, right? We want to transfer funds from our checking account, which has a balance of 100, to our savings account, which has a balance of 150. And we want to take $10 and transfer that from our checking to our savings. So when we go ahead and we execute that, come here. Our response is the option in which the value is sum. We transferred from a balance before our checking, which had 100, to a balance before our savings, we had a balance of 150, right? From the balance after our checking is now 90 because we transferred 10 to our balance after, right? And when I say from account to account, right? So that from balance after is really from account balance after to account balance after. Our savings, where it used to be 150, right? The to balance before was 150. Well, the to balance after is now 160 in our savings. And this 10 is reflected as the money that was deposited. Yeah. Now, so that's the happy path, right? So what if we, oh man, you know what? I just found the edge case that I probably didn't handle. But before I talk about that, what if we wanted to do a transfer, but we had absolutely 0 in our checking, you know? We wanted to do a transfer to our savings of still 10, but we have a 0 balance, but we're still trying to transfer 10, right? We go ahead and do that. Come here, enter that. Our result is sum, transferred, failed. Checking, 0. Savings, 150, in which we try to transfer 10. Now, an edge case that I just thought about as I'm going over this is, well, can you do a negative, right? Can we transfer a negative value? And we probably can, right? So if I go ahead and execute this, yeah. So I got to fix that because we were able, right? It says transferred from balance, checking 100, to balance, savings 150. From balance after is now 110. And yeah, so that's an issue. And then to balance after is 140. So we shouldn't be allowed to do that. So that was the handle transfer. We go back over here. Hopefully I can fix it real fast. And we got to say can withdraw. And within this can withdraw, we could probably fix it right here. We could say balance of account is greater than or equal to amount. And then we say, yeah, come here. Then we could say, and, right, amount is greater than 0. And M, because it's a decimal. That should be happy. Let's make this readable. Yeah, come here. Oh, yeah. All right. So we'll go back up here. register all that in our REPL. Yeah, come here. Yeah. Clear out our interactive window, Control-Alt-C. That's the shortcut for it. Now we can go ahead and let's see if this works. We were trying to do a handle transfer in which we're passing in a negative amount to transfer, which shouldn't be allowed. Alt-Enter. Yeah. We see over here, we see transfer failed. Checking. Had 100. Savings had 150. And we attempted to do -10, but the transfer failed. And that's what we want. All right, so that's what's up. Let me go back to me. Let me go back to me, come here, show my face. All right, so that's F# bank account Kata's volume 1, volume 2. Notice I didn't have any unit tests in there. Right now I'm just going off of the REPL window. And as a human being, I identified initially the sad path scenarios, right? I covered that. And then as I was going over this, I thought of another sad path scenario or edge case. And I went ahead and updated the code from there. Now, the next blog post on bizmonger.wordpress.com, I'll probably post something tomorrow on did I miss anything, right? So what I mean by that is I'm going to write another blog post in which I talk about property-based testing. And with property-based testing, I am going to make assumptions about my functions, right? More than likely, I'm going to make assumptions about the handle deposit function, the handle withdrawal function, and the handle transfer function. I'm going to make assumptions about what the output should be. And that's pretty much it. You know, what the characteristics of the output should be. Hence, for example, the output should always be a balance of a positive number, right? It should always be positive. It should always be greater than or equal to 0 when I want to deposit money into an account. Now, when I say that, well, what if the account has been overdrafted? All right, well, then I might have to put in some filters in my property-based test saying, given that my account balance is greater than or equal to 0 when I execute this function, and given that the amount that I pass into this function is greater than 0, then my output should always be greater than 0, right? So I'm going to be writing tests like that. So for a deposit, for a transfer, which essentially is a withdrawal and a deposit, in which it involves two different accounts, withdraw from one account, deposit into another account, and also the withdrawal as well. So hopefully I'll post that tomorrow. That's it, man. I'm still going full throttle F#. I'm still practicing. I'm still honing my skills. I'm practicing outside of work. So when I am at work, it's go time. It's perform time. Like knock them out time, right? And that's where it should be. I shouldn't be learning all this on the job because they're paying me hella money so I could perform on the job. So hold myself accountable. This is a lifestyle. This is my personal practice. My name is Scott Nimrod, aka Bizmonger. I'm a contractor consultant. I'm available for hire. And I just went over some F# and some code katas. And look out for F# Bank Account Kata Volume 3 coming out tomorrow, more than likely. Adios, te veo aratito. Straight here in Miami by way of Cleveland. I am out. 3, 2, 1. I'm stopping broadcast.